Genesis, the first book of the Old Testament. Genesis is the first book of the Bible and it tells the story of creation, the fall of man, and the history of the early patriarchs. The book is divided into two parts. The first part, chapters 1 to 11, covers the story of creation, the flood, and the Tower of Babel. The second part, chapters 12 to 50, focuses on the story of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph. In the first chapter of Genesis, God creates the world in 6 days. On the first day, He creates light, on the second day, the sky, on the third day, dry land and vegetation, on the fourth day, the sun, moon, and stars, on the fifth day, fish and birds, and on the sixth day, land animals and humans. On the seventh day, God rests and blesses the day as holy. In the second chapter of Genesis, God creates man and woman in His image and places them in the Garden of Eden. He commands them not to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, but they disobey and eat the fruit. As a result, sin enters the world and they are banished from the garden. In the following chapters, Genesis recounts the stories of Adam and Eve's descendants, including Cain and Abel, Enoch, and Noah. The story of Noah's Ark and the flood is one of the most well-known stories in the Bible. God chooses Noah to build an ark to save him, his family, and 2 of every kind of animal from the flood that will destroy the earth. In the later chapters, Genesis focuses on the story of Abraham, who is called by God to leave his home and go to a land that God will show him. God promises to make him a great nation and to bless all the families of the earth through him. Abraham's story is followed by the stories of his son Isaac, his grandson Jacob, and his great-grandson Joseph. The story of Joseph is one of the most compelling stories in Genesis. Joseph is sold into slavery by his brothers, but he rises to power in Egypt and saves his family from a famine. Joseph's story shows how God can use even the most difficult circumstances for good. The book of Genesis presents several important themes. One of the main themes is creation, and the idea that God created the world and everything in it. Another theme is the fall of man, and the idea that sin entered the world through Adam and Eve's disobedience. The book also emphasizes the importance of faith, obedience, and covenant relationship with God. A key takeaway from the book of Genesis is the importance of trusting in God's promises. Despite the trials and difficulties that the patriarchs face, God remains faithful to His promises and delivers on them in the end. The book also emphasizes the importance of obedience and faithfulness to God, as seen in Abraham's willingness to follow God's call and Joseph's integrity and obedience to God's will. In summary, Genesis is a foundational book of the Bible that tells the story of creation, the fall of man, and the history of the early patriarchs. It presents several important themes, including creation, the fall, and the importance of faith, obedience, and covenant relationship with God. The book's emphasis on God's faithfulness to His promises and the importance of obedience and faithfulness to God continue to be relevant and impactful today.